So welcome everyone to game number 1 of the Falkirk free-for-all. Started the morning with my grudge match against John Craig. He was using Undead Legions with 2 coven thrones. The scenario was meeting engagement, and there was a secondary objective of breaking your opponent's fortitude. This is just the table we were on, so not too much in the way of terrain. As I say, set up via meeting engagement, so we'll move on to that. First, we have a quick picture of my spells, 4 from Shadow and 2 from the Doomfire Warlocks. We then have my opponent's spells aren't here. He has 2 level 1 vampires who are both have Invocation of Neck. He also has a Casket of Souls and the bound spells from the Coven Throne as well. So I rolled to set up first, and all the units that I rolled for, only my Executioner started off of the table. So with my deployment, on the top left, I had a unit of Dark Riders. I then had a Bolt Thrower. And I had a unit of 5 Doomfire Warlocks. Then I had my unit of 31 Witch Elves with full command, Razor Standard, my Hellbrawn, who was my general, and a Cauldron of Blood with a Death Hag on there. So, then on this flank, I had my Master with Dark Pegasus. Another unit of 5 Doomfire Warlocks with my level 4 Shadow Sorceress, another Bolt Thrower, and then right out on the right hand side I had another unit of 5 Dark Riders. Goes to my opponent's deployment, and he proceeds to show me how well he can roll ones. So of all his units, he rolled 1, 2, 3, 4 ones, and he started with his Black Coach, his unit of 6 Chariots with 2 Coven Thrones, his unit of Black Knights, and a unit of Skeleton Warriors all off the board. So his deployment was quite quick and simple. He had 1 unit of dogs on his right hand side. He had another unit of dogs in the corner, his Casket of Souls, his Screaming Skull Catapult, and a unit of Hex Wraiths. So he started with only a couple of units on the board, but they can come on turn 1. So after Vanguards, I move up my Dark Riders, my Doomfire Warlocks, and my Dark Riders on this side. My opponent rolls to try and steal first turn. He gets that roll, he rolls a 6, and just brings all his things on. So at the top left there, you can see he brings on his Black Knights and just moves them up towards my Bolt Thrower. So in at my back lines right away, maybe wasn't my best idea. Vanguarding all the way forward. But I did think I was going to go first. So he brings on his unit of Chariots with both Coven Thrones. His Skeleton Warriors come on at the back. His dogs don't move too much. His Black Coach comes on at the far corner with his Casket. Quick picture just of his Skeleton Warriors. I really like these. This isn't a great picture, but John's painted them with flaming heads, so quite a few of them look like Ghost Rider. Definitely a nice look to them. So we go into bottom of turn 1. My Doomfire Warlocks move up, hoping to get off a Doom Bolt maybe at the Coven Thrones and Chariots, whittle down their numbers a bit. I really could do with a few less impact hits if they were to charge anything. My Dark Riders just run forward and turn around to fire off some shots at the Black Knights. They've only got 2 up armour saves, so with armour piercing, hoping to peel off a few of those. He's out of Invocation of Neck range, so I can hopefully whittle down the numbers and kill them off. Over on this side, my Dark Riders turn around and come towards the Coven Thrones and dogs. as my executioners come on and move up a little, my Doomfire Warlocks and my sorceress just turn around to face the oncoming threat of the vampires on their thrones as well. And my Pegasus riding master just flies forward, heading up to try and take care of the casket and the Screaming Skull catapult. In the magic phase, I get off Doombolt. Great roll, I couldn't have rolled any better without getting irresistible, so it goes through and I kill off 2 chariots, which is definitely a good start. I then irresistible force the enfeebling foe and reduce his strength by 3 on the chariots. I only managed to kill off 1 of the Black Knights in the shooting phase. Do manage to kill off 2 dogs, and then it's on to the top of turn 2. So he starts by declaring a few charges. His first charge, he declares it on my Dark Riders with his coven thrown. I elect to flee, not wanting to risk the chance that he's going to then overrun into my Pegasus Rider, and then maybe into, after that, have a chance at my Sorceress's unit. So they escape. He redirects. He then charges that unit with his dogs, and the unit proceeds to bounce through everything and straight off the table. So first points to my opponent, which was pretty funny. The way he was running off, we thought he could have stayed, but there just wasn't the inch of space between my executioners and the bolt thrower for the unit to sit. So yeah, they bounced straight off the edge of the board without actually having done anything. His coven thrones had redirected into my Doomfire Warlocks, who fled. Didn't flee too far, and sitting in there between my bolt thrower and the Doomfire Warlocks. No, sorry, the bolt thrower and my witches. His Black Knights charge my bolt thrower. So they're going to kill that most likely and overrun straight into the side of the Warlocks and taking out the Warlocks. So the flee was probably not the best idea in hindsight, as that's going to be my 3rd unit down, and all in the top of turn 2. The rest of his movement, his Black Coach just comes up, his Hex Wraiths move over, his Skeletons march up a little. They're actually just on top of the hill where the dice are, but they wouldn't sit, so they're just marking out where they are. Forgot to mention that his Screaming Skull catapult misfired last turn and couldn't fire that turn or this turn, so that's not doing anything. In his magic phase, the Casket of Souls goes off. It does nothing to my Master on Pegasus. It bounces off and kills 2 of my Doomfire Warlocks with my Sorceress's unit. It then bounces through and kills 6 Executioners before stopping and not bouncing onto the bolt thrower down the corner. So just a quick picture of the damage it did there. Over here in the combat, he does kill the bolt thrower, sorry, and overruns full 12 inches, touches the Doomfire Warlocks, destroying them. So more points that have done pretty much nothing. At least they did get to kill a chariot or 2. At this point, unfortunately, they overran and hit the flank of the Witch Elves, which John was a bit disappointed about, as I had Hellbron in there, who will strike first with between 8 and 10 strength 10 attacks, and that's probably not looking good for the Black Knights. So we get into the bottom of turn 2, and my Dark Riders rally and just move across to try and chaff up the chariots if they want to try and charge into my Witch Elves, and they'll have a pot shot or 2 at the dogs. My Executioners just march up to once again come up to this combat, because at this point I know I basically just need to kill off those Coven Thrones and the unit of chariots. My Doomfire Warlocks and my Sorcerers don't move too much. My Pegasus Rider attempts to charge the dogs and fails. I think he needed about an 8 or a 9. With Swift Stride I should have made it probably, but just missed. So there's always next turn if he survives. I then got off Doombolt again on the chariots, so he's down to 2 chariots and 2 coven thrones at this point, which makes things slightly easier for me. Less impact hits, they're only strength 4 now, if he does get in as well. Also got off Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma and reduce his movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill and initiative by 1. Over here, as predicted, the shooting phase, the Dark Riders take out the 3 dogs. The combat phase, Helbron just completely annihilates the Black Rider, the Black Knights. They don't even get to attack back. So at least I got some points back for the 3 units that I've already lost. And then we go on to the top of turn 3. So at this point, he elects to charge one of the Coven Thrones out with his baby vampire. Sorry, vampire hero. He charges out and tries to get into the Dark Riders who flee. You can see how they flee through the cauldron, so it's a failed charge, and he just pops out of the unit a little bit. The Skeleton Warriors try to charge. No, they don't try to charge, sorry, they just march up. Once again, they're sitting on top of the hill, but they're actually sitting where the dice are, just for ease of movement, so that we weren't sitting with models balanced at precarious angles. The Black Coach comes up, looking for a chance to charge my Sorceress's unit, or perhaps my Pegasus Rider, if he manages to fail a charge again next turn. And you can see his other units move, his Hex Wraiths move round, the dogs move up a little bit, and the chariots, sorry, just move a little bit so they've got a charge next turn. He manages to raise back 2 chariots, which was unfortunate because it feels like it was a waste of time hitting them now. There's nothing else happening. His Screaming Skull Catapult misfires again, and we are then on to the bottom of turn 3. So for those keen-eyed viewers, just because of the size and the terrain, the chariot is marked just by the little vampire that's sitting in the corner there. At this point, I charge the Pegasus Rider into the dogs, hoping to make swift work of them and get as far down towards the casket and the Screaming Skull Catapult as possible. My Doomfire Warlocks move up just to sit in front of the Hex Wraiths. I'm going to try and Doombolt them and get rid of them. Last thing I need is them running through any of my units or characters. And this is where I made a huge mistake. I marched my Executioners up, fully expecting my opponent to charge in and do as much damage to my big unit as possible. I have no idea why I thought he would charge into that, considering it's pretty much suicide. And I leave them too close to the chariots, so he's now not got too far a charge. I think it's only about 7 or 8 inches to get that unit of chariots with the Coven Throne and Vampire Lord into my Executioners. We'll see how that goes. In my magic phase, I failed to actually get off Doombolt, so it was quite low, and the Hex Wraiths survive. So my unit, my Doomfire Warlocks and my Sorceress are sitting right in front of a unit of Hex Wraiths, which are going to pass over and probably kill them. In the combat phase, my Pegasus Rider makes quick work of the dogs and overruns a good distance, meaning next turn he can charge either of the war engines, assuming he survives the casket. And this is how things look at the top of turn 4. And it's at this point, when my opponent declares a charge, I realise just how much of a mistake I made. So he declares a charge. he also moves his Hex Wraiths through my Doomfire Warlocks. He kills all 3 Doomfire Warlocks. Managed to fail 3 ward saves. And the Sorceress is left unharmed. And this is a picture of the charge. He also charges his skeletons into the side of my Executioners. So that's 2d6 strength 4 impact hits at the minute, with the Coven thrown. I think he also gets off the bound spell, giving him +1 strength, rerolls to hits and rerolls to wounds. Actually incredibly horrible. I didn't realise Coven thrones were quite as scary as that. He also uses his other chariot with the baby vampire on it to quickly chaff up my witch elves to make sure they can't help the executioners if they were to survive that combat. Sorry for yawning, been a long day. The Casket of Souls goes off, but only manages to do 1 wound to my Pegasus Rider, so he survived, thankfully, and hopefully I'll get in to kill that Casket of Souls next turn. He then gets off Invocation of Nehek again, giving him another chariot back, so that means all of the impact hits here are at strength 5. Which on toughness 3 elves, it's not going to be pretty. And it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 dead to impact hits. Then the vampires go and kill off a couple more. I can't do anything in return except from kill 1 chariot. I lose this combat by about 1025. I fail my Snake Eyes test and I flee. I forgot to take a picture of his chariots overrunning here and the rest of this turn, but not much else happens. But yeah, that's a 405 point unit wiped out there, and I realised just how much trouble I am in game 1. It's not looking good, so I have to think of something desperate. So in this, the bottom of turn 4 now, with things not looking good, I decide to get some points, so I charge the Cauldron and the Witches into this vampire on a chariot, so it's a few hundred points. I'm really behind now. I really need to do something, so we'll get the points for that and we'll see what happens from there. My Pegasus Rider does get in and manages to charge the Casket of Souls. Keep forgetting its name. Over here, my Dark Riders come across to try and take some shots at the chariots. I need to try and figure out a way to get rid of those. In the magic phase we go into, I get off Melkos Mystifying Miasma and reduce his movement, movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill, and initiative by 3. And I Hail Mary. I put 6 dice into Pit of Shades, which hits absolutely everything. And considering I had got Melkoths through, his vampire was sitting on initiative 4. The chariots were all on initiative 1. And he fails every initiative test and loses the whole unit. So he loses a Vampire Lord on the Coven throne, which is about 600 points. He loses the unit of 6 chariots, which is another 400 points. And Hilbron is in against his other vampire chariot. So I'm hoping to get that. And considering things looked down and out at the top of turn 4 on Lucky Spell, and it's all of a sudden swung massively back into my favour. I cannot say how happy I was at this. I actually felt bad, considering he failed every test. But unfortunately with the big spells, that's what can happen. And Hilbron and the chariot make short work of the baby vampire and overrun there. Also have the other combat with my Pegasus Rider, who manages to kill the Casket of Souls and overruns straight off the table. And this is the top of turn 5. As you can see in the top left of this picture there, I think just sums up how John was feeling at this point. Having just lost about 14 or 1500 points in the bottom of turn 4 after things were looking so good. His head was in his hands and I think he was a little at a loss of what to do. In all fairness, he took it like a sport and we got on with the last 2 turns. Over here, the Screaming Skull Catapult in turn 5 actually got off a shot. It done 1 wound to the Cauldron of Blood and killed off 3 Witch Elves. So I think Lord Tremendous said it best when he calls it a fail pult, which is basically exactly what happened in this game. Didn't do much, that was the only damage it actually done. He then moves up his Hex Wraiths. He charged my Sorceress, who at this point had taken 2 wounds. She fled across the difficult terrain and passed her dangerous terrain test. So that was a load off my mind. She's on 1 wound there, so I was glad she survived that. Sorry, my apologies, I didn't run off the board. I overran into the Screaming Skull Catapult, which we fight this turn. I kill it and then overrun off the board. So in my turn 5, I just reform the Cauldron and Witch Elves to face the Skeletons. I managed to rally my Sorceress, and my Dark Riders don't really do much. I get off a Pit of Shades on the Hex Wraiths, who have initiative 2, and he passes 3 of those, I believe. So there's 3 left. And then in combat I kill the Screaming Skull Catapult and then overrun off the board. It goes into turn 6. I think I forgot to get a picture of this, but his skeletons charge my Sorceress, who elects to flee again. And this is a picture of my Sorceress failing her dangerous terrain, taking a wound, failing her ward save, and killing herself. So that sucked. That's another few hundred points to my opponent. He's clawing them back. After the disaster turn 4 he had, I had no right to feel bad about this, but I did. Didn't want my Sorceress to be lost on a dangerous terrain test. And this is just where his skeletons ended up. He moves his Hex Wraiths out of the way just so they can't get caught from anything. We then go into my turn 6, and my Witch Elves charge the flank of the skeleton unit. With no magic left, I make short work of the skeleton unit. I overrun, and that's the end of the game. So overall here we had it was a 16-4 victory to myself on points. I did, however, break his fortitude, so I get an extra 500 points, which makes it a 19-4 for me. So I start game 1 with a 19-4 victory, and I move up, and I think my next game is on table 4. Next game is against the Dwarfs, and I'll have it up as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed this one, and keep track of what's going on through the rest of the tournament, and we'll see how I did at the end. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.